am going to go over a couple of preventative techniques for someone who's dealing with shin splints. Right now it's almost May in Chicago. We got a lot of our clients who are starting to do more recreational endurance work. Super common byproduct of that, if you're not used to doing it, is shin splints. And shin splints essentially is just soreness in the muscle on the front of the shin. This muscle right here that runs on the outside of the shin bone. It's called your tibialis anterior. So that's really the area that we're going to focus on. And really it's just from overuse, because every time you run you have to pull your foot up off the ground. So a lot of it's just, if you run 5 miles, I have no idea how many steps that's going to be, but that's a ton of reps for that muscle. So we want to look at a couple of things. We're going to look at, one, what do we do if we actually are experiencing shin splints? And then two, we want to look at how do we get rid of the likelihood of them happening. Okay, so I'm going to show you two different things as far as a recovery technique. And then I'm going to show you some strengthening stuff. So from a recovery side of things, I'm taking my shoes off for this just because I think it's a little bit easier when we get to the stretch part of it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually do some soft tissue for the muscle on the front. Okay, so we're going to find a foam roller. I'm going to position here. So I want to get the foam roller just right on this muscle. Okay, so I don't want to be right on my shin bone. I'm rolling just to slightly to the outside of it. And the setup for this is you just want to find a decent way to support your body weight. So get your hands down on the floor. Start with it again, just like right up at the very top of that muscle, just underneath the knee. This leg is just sort of out of the way so it can function as a little bit of a base of support. And all I'm trying to do is just let my body weight sink into this foam roller. And I'm slowly just going to roll. Now what I also like to do is you can apply a little bit of a stretch to that tibialis muscle if you kind of point your toes. Once you find a spot, see my foot kind of naturally hangs back there, but once I find a spot, if I then, by pointing my toes, I'm actively stretching that muscle. So when I find a knot, I might do just a couple of reps, then keep it moving. And feel free to move your hands and your feet around however you need to. So this is just called pinning and stretching. The foam roller pins that restriction and movement down, or that tension, and then the stretch is obviously just the motion of my foot. So I would just go up, I would go down the shin. So what I would do is I would just start at the top, I'd work all the way down to the instep. Once you reach the bottom of that muscle down here, I would not worry about doing multiple times. I would not worry about rolling down and then rolling back up. For most people, I think if you start at the top and just do one good round, get yourself down here, that's often where I think you can kind of stop it. So now, after we've done the soft tissue work, now we're going to actually stretch it a little bit. So it's not a super easy muscle to stretch. What I've found to be the most effective way to stretch it is get yourself on a mat, sit down so you're sitting on your feet. Essentially, if I was wearing shoes, I want my shoelaces down. I'm going to bring my hands back behind my hips. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my knees, which is essentially, it's taking my ankle joint and it's pushing my toes this way to apply a stretch to the muscle here. But this way it's a little bit more of a passive stretch where I'm not pointing my toes, but I'm simply just rocking back and lifting my knees. By lifting my knees, I'm getting that ankle joint to extend, and I can really just hang out in this position. Okay, so as far as the stretch goes, I might say maybe something in like a 30 to 60 second length, once or twice after you've done the foam rolling. Okay, so if you're dealing with shin splints, what I would do is I would foam roll it once on each leg first, then I would do one or two of those stretches, and I would try to do that semi-regularly. If they're pretty sore, maybe I try to do that twice the first day. Hopefully by day 2 it's pretty much gone. And then we want to look at, well, how do we prevent shin splints from happening? So that's the next thing that we're going to look at. All right, so now for the strengthening portion of it, it's pretty straightforward. Really just kind of looking at this muscle as the opposite of the calf muscles. Super easy way to train the calves is simply by just doing a calf raise this way. Now you might use a machine, or you might bias yourself against the wall so you can get a little bit more full range of motion, but that's basically how you train the calf. Well, we just need to do the opposite if we want to go after that tibialis muscle. So one of the easiest ways to do it, especially if you don't have access to a tibialis machine, which is a pretty specialized piece of equipment, and you probably will not find it at a lot of commercial places, or if you're trying to do this at home and you're not even trying to do this stuff in a gym, all you need is a wall. You're just going to put your upper back against the wall, bring your feet forward a little bit. Basically, I'm just trying to put this ankle joint into a kind of a decently open range of motion. If I'm standing upright, there's not a lot of range of motion for me to work with. So instead, but if I go this way, all I'm doing essentially are toe raises. So I'm just pulling my toes up to my shins. You can see that muscle engaging, and then I just push my toes back to the floor. So it just gives me a little bit fuller of a range of motion than just the purely standing version. So and you just simply want to pull your toes straight up. There's no need to rotate the ankles, turn the feet in or out. Don't worry about doing anything like that. Just keep everything nice and neutral, and then just draw the toes up. What I like to do in terms of volume is just on day one, just do like 20 reps. And you might not even be able to get 20 in a row, but to start with, like, just do 20 reps. When you can get to the point where you can do a full continuous set of 20, then I'll add maybe a second set. Past that point, for most people, if all we're trying to do is prevent shin splints, if you're able to do 2 full sets of 20 with that, I haven't had anybody come back with shin splints while being able to do that. So if that is the case, then that's kind of I guess going to be out of my wheelhouse, because I haven't seen it be a necessity yet. So they're very, very much an endurance muscle, so we want to train them with reps, not with a ton of load. And they can be trained relatively frequently. I would not train them right before you go into a run, so you want to look at your training volume. If I'm running on Monday and Thursday and Saturday, maybe you're dropping those little bursts of training on the day after, or even the afternoon after if you're doing a morning run. If you're doing a nighttime run, maybe the morning immediately after. So that way, hopefully it's not going to interfere with the actual running that you're doing. So give it a shot, and hopefully it works.